Welcome, everyone, to our room, Seeing Opportunity in Devastation with Stories to Inspire. If you've been following our podcast, episode 19 was about refining your market niche for more sales. Basically, what we've been saying there is narrowing the sales funnel at the top. Let a lot less people in and increase the proportion of your sales conversion. And if you really want if you're interested, if you're listening to us for the first time, then you can go into the YouTube channel called Griffin Enterprise Development and you'll find all our episodes published there. But a warm welcome to Ed. It is our storyteller, our strategist, our chief mentor in terms of taking your business from where it is to where it needs to be, and that definitely means growth. And also welcome Julia and Paul and others. And over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Jacques. Nice to be here again. So, we did talk about niching your business, narrowing the funnel at the top. One thing that I omitted to say when we talked about this, because we talked about trying to get to a situation where you were highly specialized in a particular niche, and therefore your strike rate, your ability to take an inquiry and convert it into a sale was very, very high. So you had a strike rate of maybe even 40%, 50%, even 100%. Now, that's fine in theory, but what happens if you have multiple talents? What do you do? Do you just pick one and go with that? Well, if that one is going to give you enough uh, job satisfaction and enough money, then probably that's a great idea. Don't waste your time on doing everything else. But for most of us, we want to enjoy all of our capabilities, or at least several of them. And the advice I have is, instead of just trying to be everything to everyone, set up multiple alternate niches. So if your business is, let's say, wedding photography, but you really enjoy videoing um, wildlife, don't present yourself as simply a photographer and videographer. Have two business channels, one videoing wildlife and the other doing wedding photography. Now, those two might be completely separate. They might have separate websites, for instance. They would definitely have separate landing pages. They may even have different names. They may identify you differently. So, on the one, you might be identified as the wedding guy, and on the other, as catching the action or something like that. And so you could have two or three niches rather than trying to simply ignore niching and just catch everything that could come into the funnel. Incidentally, while we were having this discussion outside this forum, um, one of the points that came up was that websites in general don't work very well anymore. Everybody has a website, everybody has to have a website, seemingly, but websites don't generate business in the main. In fact, it's very, very rare for websites to directly generate business. They do occasionally, but they're not the greatest of tools if your requirement is to generate a whole lot of sales tools, a whole lot of sales leads. Rather, have landing pages, and some companies now are abandoning websites, accepting as sort of electronic brochures, which you can get through the social media. And they simply have landing pages for their specialist skills. It's quite an interesting concept which people might want to think about. And then I just read a most beautiful phrase, which I thought I must tell our listeners. It actually is an Einstein quote, and I'm going to change it slightly because he talked about ships, but I think it makes a lot more sense to talk about aircraft. And what, if he had referred to aircraft, what he would have said is aircraft are only really safe when they're on the ground. But that's not what they were designed and built to do. So inherently, doing what they were built to do contains a measure of risk. He actually referred to ships and said they're only really safe when they're aground. Um, but the same is true of aircraft. So inherently, doing what they are built to do, putting out to sea, going up in the air, means they are never in the same safe position as they could be. Now, that thought really struck me as how that is very true about going into business. Your only safe position is not to go into business, to find some other way of generating income, put a lot of money in the bank and live off the interest. And assuming the bank doesn't collapse, there you are relatively safe.
Mm.
But if you take that money and you put it into an entrepreneurial business, you have already got your wheels off the runway. You're taking risk. And I think we need to realize this, that we moan about the difficulty of entrepreneurship. Well, if there wasn't that difficulty, we'd be sitting around waiting for the interest check to come in at the end of every month. And that would be kind of boring.
Safe
So
as
I,
houses.
I just love that phrase, and I thought I've got to share this along the line here because there's a real lesson behind that. I think it's one of those that are going to go somewhere up on a wall around my desk. So today, because we've pretty well dealt with the question of sales funnels, um, and how you use them to increase your take, because we're still basically on the theory of winning, creating opportunities out of devastation, moving from where almost everyone is a buyer's market, where you're just one of many, into a seller's market where you are the chosen one that people seek out to buy from. And so I thought we'd up a gear a little bit and look at entrepreneurs as a class of people. And using something that we used back in a couple of episodes ago, where we asked salespeople to rate themselves on various skills of selling, like time management and pure sales skills of sort of opening and closing and writing proposals, and territory management and product knowledge and industry knowledge and all those sort of things. Um, I thought it would be quite an interesting concept to rate entrepreneurs on the qualities which I think could be those qualities which would drive entrepreneurship forward. And those qualities um, would also, if you rated yourself in detail on each of those qualities, would show where you're not doing too well. And that, of course, is what you're looking for, because you're looking for room to improve. If you're perfect, then you're not going to get any better than you are now, ever. But if you find some weaknesses and you can adjust for them, then you're really got an opportunity going forward. So I just listed some here, and we can develop this over time. But I listed the sort of things which said um, brand development, brand awareness development, um, and then issues like strategy, pure managerial ability, the art of management, customer retention, and customer care, people management, the ability to manage risk, the ability to build teams, and so on down the line. There are about 10 of these qualities which I've identified, including communication and a whole lot of others. So now, if we take each of those in turn, and let's say for today, we take the business of being a manager, being having management capability, the skills needed to be a manager. If we took that one as a model and we said, what are the components of managerial capability? And we could speculate on various of those components. But I've listed a few here. And the first one that came to me was leadership. How good are you as a leader? Now, if you had a little rating system and you rated yourself on a 1 to 5 star basis, or a 1 to 10 star basis, um, and said, as a leader, how good am I? And how would we know whether we're a good leader or not? This is a thorny question which has been talked about for many, many centuries. And I think everyone knows who's a leader. Everyone sees people who are leaders. They are instinctively identified out of the crowd. They are looked up to, they are respected, but most of all, they're followed. So, one of the definitions of leadership is to see who is following. If there are people who are following, then it is likely that you have some kind of leadership capability. It's actually quite hard to judge your own leadership capabilities. Maybe what you want to do is track back and say, have I taken leadership roles? Have I been a board chairman of a company that I was involved in? Have I been the CEO? Have I taken a senior management role with people reporting to me? Have I done work in the NGO space or the private space and somehow come out as the person on the top? When I speak, do people listen to me? And if you can do an honest assessment of your own ability at leadership, I think that would give you quite a big tick in the box. Because if you're running the show, you have to lead. It's not just a technical management solution. You're not a bureaucrat. So you don't just pass paper around. You also have to lead. Let's take the next one, administration. Entrepreneurs are notoriously bad at administration. But what administrative tasks should you be doing? You can be bad at administration by being sloppy about your admin, having papers all around that you can never find what you're looking for because nothing gets filed, and having a whole pile of to dos that never get done because that sort of bores you. You can be bad at administration that way, or you can be bad at administration the other way, where you're doing jobs that can be done by filing clerks, where you're doing jobs that can and should be done by people within your organization because you choose to do it your way. How many times have we seen the situation where a manager wants to approve documents that go out, especially proposals, and then blue pencils each one as they go out? And inevitably, what happens is that the document author gets a bit sloppy because he knows it's going to be proofread. And so now you get a dependency because everyone's a terrible writer. So now you have a job of reading everything that goes out. That's not what you're there for. You're there to manage the show. So your administrative talents can be either too detailed or not detailed enough. Assess yourself. Tell yourself how you fare and decide what you have to do to make a change if your rating's not like a 4 out of 5. Because we would be looking for 4 and above out of 5 on each of these categories. Are you 4 and above as a leader? Are you 4 and above as an administrator? What about people management? How good are you at people management? How do they react to you? Are you able to draw people in, or are you seen as a fierce tyrant that everyone is terrified of? Are you growing people? Are they simply static in your organization? Are they just robots? Are they scared to make decisions or take risks? Or are they happy to come to work every morning? And people management is probably one of the most important issues around. Often, we talked a little bit about the pirate captain style of management some time ago, but often people in entrepreneurial roles um, are quite scornful of their own people. They don't try and build them. They don't try and develop them. They don't show confidence in them. They don't give them the opportunity to grow. Sometimes, perhaps because they feel threatened that they might grow up and challenge you for your position. Well, if someone's that good, wonderful. Let him challenge you for your position. Let him eventually buy you out and go and start again. What a great way to go. Now you got all the money in the bank and you're still having all the fun. Couldn't ask for anything better. How are you at people management? And how are you at project management? Because along the line, you're going to have to run projects. You're going to have to pull up projects and uh, be the boss of those and run them successfully. Um, and the art of project management is a very very tricky one. It's one where you you can spend again too much detail time, or simply turn the project into something that is an ongoing activity um, when it should have been dealt with and resolved long time ago. So project management, another key one. How good are you at project management? Can you actually start it, get it in on time, in budget, in specification, and close it off and walk away from it? How good are you at building teams? How good are you at teamwork, working within teams? So each of these might have several subsections. So first of all, how good are you at building teams? How good are you at putting the right people together and then energizing them and in allowing them to work together even though they might have disparate ideas, allowing friction within groups so long as it doesn't break the group? How good are you at putting yourself as a part of a team instead of as the lordy overseer of every bit of work in your organization? Teamwork is crucial. If your organization doesn't have teams within it, then it's a bunch of individuals who are going to sometimes work against each other because they see their future as being better than someone else. That's not a great organization to work in. What about the next one? Crisis management. How good are you at solving serious problems? Do you hide under your desk? Do you take over from everyone? Are you the only person who can make the decisions here? Do you make bold decisions? Are you able to really react to a crisis in a very, very short time, which we have to do in this age of social media? And are you able to address it firmly and emphatically? What about negotiation? If you can't negotiate, you're not a great manager, I'm afraid. Negotiation is a part of
To
all management. Um, Now, a lot of really dominant managers would disagree with me. They would say, you do as I do, my way or the highway. There is no negotiation, therefore, there's no need for me to be a negotiator. But that doesn't work if you're working with something like a trade union or a government department or a tax man or a group of recalcitrant employees, um, or an impending strike or something like that. You have to be a negotiator, and learning negotiation skills is a absolutely crucial issue. If you're not a good negotiator, it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time, effort, and most of all, it's going to cost motivation within your business. And we know that motivation and productivity are very closely linked. No motivation, not a lot of productivity. High motivation, usually very, very high levels of productivity. And, that's where we're trying to be. We're trying to be in that apex position where we move from the buyer's market into the seller's market and make it easier and much, much more profitable for ourselves. So, negotiation to me is a non negotiable. What about time management? Sure. Do you spend your time effectively at managing the business? Or the time that you allocate towards managing the business, do you spend that time effectively? And I have a horrible feeling that if everyone were absolutely honest with themselves and we were rating on a 10-star basis, most of us would be around 2 or 3. I think we're terrible time wasters and we don't prioritize the way we should. We take the urgent instead of the important all the time. And we, generally speaking, do not use our time as effectively as we should. And this is a huge problem because if you're running the shop and you're not using your time effectively, in other words, a lot of your time, or maybe even most of your time, you're not actually managing the way you should be managing. How successful can the shop be? When I say shop, I don't mean that literally as a retail store. I just mean the enterprise. Time management is also one of the easiest things to fix. You record your time, you use one of the time management tools, you use prioritization tools to distinguish between urgent, important, and time wasters, and you give yourself time to deal with time wasters, but not while you're supposed to be running the business. And you give yourself time to deal with the important issues, even though there are many, many urgent issues on your plate. So, crucial skill that. Um, and then, what about impartiality? How good are you at being impartial? Do you play favorites? Very few of us do not have some sort of favorites in our business. Favorite activities, favorite people, favorite customers that we would turn to first of all. And sometimes there's justification for that. So we have 5 very large customers um, that get all the priority all the time. And then we have a dozen little customers along the line. And somewhere along the line, one of those little customers will pop up and say, if you don't want my money, if I'm not important enough for you, then fine, I'll take my business elsewhere. It's happened to almost every business along the line, and it doesn't teach us what we should learn from it. I know at least one of my clients have said that irrespective of the size and the income generated by any client, they will, as a goal of the business, be treated equally. They will be treated with the same level of respect, the same level of prioritization. It will depend on their needs, not how big they are as a client to us. And that's a very, very bold thing to do. Very brave statement. But that business has grown fourfold in the last 5 years or so. So maybe they're doing a few things right and we could learn from them. Equally important if you're talking about impartiality of staff, impartiality of people, impartiality towards your suppliers. If you're not impartial, you will be suffering difficulties. And then the last one I've got on this list is how good are you at asking for help? And I guess for most of us, that's a zero score or very, very close to zero. We're, we're,
About
we're,
right, Ed.
we're not at all good on saying, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do next. Who can I turn to help me? And we should be. We should really be. So there's, I don't know, about 10 or 12 characteristics, and that's just on one skill, on managerial skills. Now, if you rated yourself on each of those, and unless you're getting 4 stars on all of them, in which case you're a superior manager, and we could probably add a few more like risk taking and all the other things, but maybe that'll come into strategy. Um, and then we go through each of the other characteristics, you might end up with, I don't know, 100 individual ratings. And then all you do is pick out your bad ratings and say, let me go to work on those. Because then automatically I'm going to lift myself and my business substantially. Because those are the things that are holding me back. So I think I've talked just about through all our available time now. Um, but I hope you found that of value.
We certainly did, Ed. And for those listening, it is of great value. Now, it's interesting that as a component that it is addressing in terms of improving your skills or rating yourself in terms of your ability, your competence, your capability as a salesperson. And starting from the first question is so interesting to me is how good am I as a leader? And then it takes us to the several ones. And just to say, it starts with being inspired, motivated, and then you inspiring and motivating others. So thank you, Ed. We wait with bated breath for the next edition as we
Mm,
continue on this track because the learning opportunity is certainly a wonderful one.
mm. Yeah, just on the leadership one. Not only must you be inspired and motivated, but you must be able to communicate that both verbally and non-verbally to everyone.
Mm,
You have to get
mm.
them excited around you. Then you've got that sort of thing where, in the old phrase, they would follow you into a gun barrel.
And yes, it has a huge impact on uh, you as a salesperson, the entrepreneur as a salesperson.
Mm.
And yes, looking forward to the rest, Ed. Thank you very much. Thank you to those who've joined us this afternoon. And yeah, we look forward to meeting with you again next week. Bye for
Look
now.
forward to it. Bye.